Deuteronomy 28, verses 30 to 32. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord your God, or be careful to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, then all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you.
Politics of the country at this stage want to expropriate our land without compensation.
All land in the hands of white people is stolen property, and therefore it must be returned to black people.
That if they get rid of whites, all their problems will go away.
White farmers in South Africa are being attacked every single day.
So that is where we are now. It is a punishment from God.
You shall build a house, and you shall not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, and you shall not use the fruit of it.
People being tortured to death, especially elderly people.
En het my oordrom gebars, my neus gebreek, my wangbene gebreek.
3 o'clock that morning, he was shot. That I miss him was my brother.
We are pretty dead. We have 2,000 graves in cemeteries in our eyes.
Your ox shall be slain before your eyes, and you shall not eat of it. Your ash shall be violently taken away before your face, and shall not be restored to you.
White people live like kings and queens, out of sweat and blood of black people.
There's a lot of greed within the white community, especially in South Africa. They're untouchable.
Running principle of apartheid in this country was that if you are black, you are subhuman, you are a slave.
White people are not prepared to pay back.
Your sheep shall be given to your enemies, and there shall be none to help you. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people, while your eyes look on and fail with longing for them all the day.
Civil war in South Africa is inevitable. It will happen sooner than most people think.
It is race-based. Because your skin is white.
One bullet, one settler. One bullet, one settler. One settler. One bullet, one settler. One bullet.
And it shall not be in the power of your hand to prevent it.
My name is Adi Schlebusch. I'm a South African, descendant of white Europeans who moved into this country in between the 17th and the 19th century. We live on a family farm near Bloemfontein in South Africa, and I'm the fifth generation of my family on that farm. And currently, for the past two years, I've been working there and farming with my father. So this is my father, Jan. He's both my dad and my boss at the moment.
On this farm, we farm mostly with cattle, and it is for beef. We don't milk the cattle for commercial purposes.
Part of my daily routine on the farm is to mix the nutritional supplements for the cattle, which we feed the cattle. So I spend a lot of time in our barn. Farming is part of who I am. So it is something that if I thought I could, I probably would do it for the rest of my life.
The term boer actually has a meaning that you are a farmer. You cultivate the land, you breed stock, and that became also a national name for us, an identity.
The Afrikaner or Boer people are the descendants of the white European peoples. And these people were religious refugees from Europe, French Huguenots, Dutch Calvinists, and German Protestants. I was born and raised in this country. My family has lived in this country for over 200 years. And I love my homeland, but I just don't feel like I can raise my family in this country anymore. Yeah, it's very fleissy. I'm married. I've got a beautiful wife, Lisa, and 2 lovely little children. A daughter, she's 2 years old, and a son who's just turning 1. Hemelse Vader, dankie vir ons voorregte en seëninge. Dankie vir die dag. Dankie dat U ons deur die nag bewaar het van kwaad of gevaar. Seën die voedsel in ons liggaam wat ons gebruik het die Heer in Jesus Christus se naam. Amen. Amen.
I should tell you that before that, we didn't have anything like that.
I feel that my life and the life of my family members and the future of my children under threat in this country. The most immediate threat is the threat of violence, of being attacked on the farm.
This is to terrorize us, to scare us, to leave the country and to capitulate. There's definitely a white genocide.
There are hundreds of farmers. Hundreds of white people are murdered in the country every year. Thousands of white farmers have been murdered over the past decade or so.
This murder is certainly a race issue. It is explicitly a race issue.
My name is Zanele Luana. I belong to a revolutionary movement in South Africa called Black First Land First, in short BLF. Outer circle, which is red, symbolizes the blood of our people through colonial wars and massacres and genocide. And then the black circle inside represents black people. And then at the back, which is the trademark of our movement, is Land of Death.
Go to your house, police place. Go to your house, Hitler. This is not your land.
We are going to have national general elections in 2019. We are working very, very hard. We are not expecting to get less than, I would say, 5 seats as a movement.
Any white person who touches us, we will send them to hell.
As the deputy president of this movement, I think there's a great possibility that I would be a member of parliament.
This is a declaration of war. We will not accept it.
We believe the central contradiction, or rather the problem that we face as black people in South Africa and also within the African continent, is the occupation of our country and the continent by a white minority.
White people must know we will defend ourselves and we'll fight back. We will make sure they go back to wherever they come from. This is our land. It's a woman. Are you your problem? I don't know.
Apartheid regime in South Africa come as a result of colonialism, where the oppression and the subjugation of a people based on their race was legislated and made into law.
I don't think apartheid as it was implemented was a workable system.
I do admit that everything wasn't done right towards the black people of South Africa.
Rallying principle of apartheid in this country was that if you are white, you are human, you have every right to own everything, and if you are black, you are subhuman, and therefore you are a servant of the white minority.
Certainly, the white man had, of many white people at least, had a feeling of superiority, especially during that period.
It is through the apartheid regime where colonialists in this country continued to take the land of black people. If we are to liberate ourselves and advocate for a free and just society that respects black people, we must struggle for the return of the land to the indigenous people.
And it's not going to be some kind of blanket approach that we take from white, we give to a black. We are going to look at the various lands that we believe should be targeted. There's land that is lying fallow, that is not being used, is underutilized. There's land that is vacant.
South African ruling African National Congress will push ahead with plans to amend the constitution to allow for the expropriation of land without compensation.
The question of land remains among the most sensitive and divisive in the country.
Land was stolen under apartheid. It still hasn't been given back.
All major political parties in South Africa have agreed there is a need for extensive land reform in the country.
The constitution, as it stands, does not impede expropriation of land without compensation.
And of course, if that were to happen to my family, it would be catastrophic.
Black people suffer in this country. About half of the population lives in poverty in this country. I'm talking about people on an everyday basis. They don't know what they are going to eat, and they don't know what they are going to feed their children. No one deserves to live all their lives without basic services. You don't have water, you don't have electricity, because you are cut out of the economy. And part of the problem is that the white minority is in denial that they took a whole country from the people.
Our economy is facing serious challenges at the moment. The recently released figures on unemployment are quite worrying.
What are you going to have for dinner?
Today, we don't have anything because there's nobody. She was the breadwinner. She was the only one who was working.
Wait. What? You're not going to have any kind of food for dinner?
No, I'm asking from my neighbors for food.
How are you gonna feed your kid today?
Oh my God. Tonight, my next door neighbor gave me fed cooks to feed the kids.
One bullet, one settler. Bullet, settler. Bullet, settler.
As Black First Land First, we also support land occupations in the country because people have no houses, people are not working. There's overcrowding in one house. We are going to occupy the land and we are going to use it primarily for residential purposes. As you can see that people have allocated themselves. Obviously, it works through a structure of leadership. So this comrade Veli is the leader of this particular community.
Oh, others, they don't work. They work with part-time jobs and sell where they sell. They don't work. But the majority doesn't work.
Why?
They don't have jobs. They don't have jobs. They're working part-time jobs. This is my car. So I want to fix it, but I don't have money also. Because I'm running short of 4,000 to fix the car. No bricks.
What kind of car you would like to have?
Kind of car.
Yeah, favorite car.
Favorite car.
What do you want to drive?
Oh, Rover. Land Rover.
80% of the land in South Africa is owned by 35,000 white families, including white businesses. 80% of the land. Millions and millions of black people in this country are landless.
I've had this house for almost 20 years. It started off as a small little single house, and then we went on top, and then we went this way, and through the years we could turn it into quite a nice, large house. And when I go to Europe, I come back here and I realize this is why I want to be here. It's the space. It's the incredible space we have. I'm Steve Hofmeyer. I'm a singer, a songwriter. I'm also just a writer. And off late in the last decade or so, I've abused my stage to become an activist for some of the interests of my tribe.
Steve Hofmeyer is an artist, he's a singer and also an actor. And he's a very successful artist. One of the most successful artists in South African history. Today, I would describe him probably as the most influential Boer nationalist.
The decision to move from apartheid, to dismantle it, to share the entire country, was a small decision that whites only could make in 1992. And at that stage, I voted yes for it. I still think, theoretically, it's still a very good idea, but you have to work with reasonable people. And within about a year of voting yes, I realized that yes vote was a dagger in the heart of my people. My tribe will be the Boer. A more modern definition of theirs is the Afrikaner. Our ancestors are European, but we are African. You know, we are very proud to be African. Behind me is Lena. She's only been here for a few days. She's also our babysitter, a hard worker, and she speaks also my language, which makes it easier for us to get along. And that is Lena. Just wave, Lena. The people are far from here. It is customary in South Africa. We have workers also in the gardens and all that. And people have sketched it almost as kind of a slavery, almost as if you went out there and forced people to come work here. But they never asked the other question. In a country with a 50% unemployment rate under the youth, and a 30% unemployment under the rest, people will come work here for 3 rand a day. But we have an election coming up, so you'll have the most populist expressions out there. The land expropriation debate was extremely controversial. The moment it was mentioned, everybody said, we've been waiting for this for a long time. This is not news. But without compensation, that was a new one for us. For me, that's nothing else but theft.
Remember, apartheid is the subjugation of black people by the white minority. It's classified as a crime against humanity. And how apartheid becomes possible, it's through the dispossession of black people.
The old propaganda is that if ever you were a settler during the age of conquest, you were a thief. But we're speaking of the age of conquest. We're speaking of another era.
Debt does not rot away. And generally, what do we do with stolen goods when they are found? The most just thing to do is for the stolen to be returned to their rightful owners.
You know how much history you have to ignore and sidestep to get to the point where you can say, I was here first, the land belongs to me. You can't have birthright. Birthright is not the way to, you can't say I was there first.
White people live like kings and queens in this country, out of sweat and blood of black people.
Do you believe that if the government will take the land from white owners and then redistribute it among the black population, will it help
It will help. It will help us because we will be able to regain our roots and we'll be able to provide for ourselves. If I had a land for myself, I was going to be able to put chickens out, goats out, and be a farmer, a black farmer.
The ANC Lekgotla reaffirmed its position that a comprehensive land reform program that enables equitable access to land will unlock economic growth.
You see that side here, you see people are planting here. We plant spinach and cabbage, potatoes, so that people can eat.
Let's get closer. This is the name,
Yeah. This is what we call in Morocco Chinese spinach. This is African spinach. This is our Chinese spinach. It's what we eat here, normally eat. It's very easy. They give us what they've stolen. Then we reconcile. There's no problem. But the land belongs to us. They know very clearly that they have stolen the land. Why can't they show the remorse?
What if, for example, those farmers would refuse to give you the land?
Why they refuse? Because they know their fathers and grandfathers they've stolen. They know most very clear. Because they don't belong here. They are not Africans.
Question that keeps coming up from racists and colonizers who are white, who live with us here in this country, is that you want land, you are incapable of anything. What are you going to use the land for? It comes from an attitude of wanting to portray black people as a race that must constantly be supervised by a white minority on a slave-master relationship. We do not need to explain ourselves to our colonizers.
My name is Malabana Choi. I am the secretary of the CPA, which is in fact BCPA, Piatadi Communal Property Association. This farm was owned by before we came in, it was owned privately. Before the government acquired it, it was owned by a family called the Schlesinger family. That is when they came here, and then most of the indigenous people were then taken out from the northern side of the farm.
Ферма Зеводила — это была самая крупная цитрусовая ферма не только в Южной Африке, вообще во всем Южном полушарии, как алмаз, как бриллиант, вот, цитрусовых ферм. Я русский, но я настолько долго живу в Африке и настолько люблю этот континент, что я жил полжизни. Я попал в Южную Африку первый раз по контракту пилотом. Пролетал в Африке, наверное, где-то около года. Мне стало скучновато. И я как-то вообразил, что мы можем организовать свою компанию по экспорту фруктов из Африки.
By right, we are the owners of this farm. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have contracted the farm or leased out the farm to a company now called 8 Mile.
В тот момент не нашлось другой компании южноафриканской, которая бы согласилась взять риски и оплатить фрукты, которые еще не собраны с деревьев, авансом.
It's unfortunate because I believe that the best scenario in terms of land reform is if the owners can themselves be the owners and at the same time be the management.
И на ферме, я думаю, что всего работает, по-моему, у нас 5 человек работает белого менеджмента персонала, а все остальные с местного комьюнити, черные.
How many hours do you work?
9 hours. 7 o'clock in, 12 o'clock I'm going to lunch, 1 o'clock I'm go to work. 5 o'clock I'm clock out, I'm go home.
How do you like working on a farm that is run by white people?
Okay, Gamo Feme. The big one, Okay, they're good for us. They're all people just working here, just feeling nice.
The general manager himself, who's practically on the ground, is a white Afrikaner boy. Most of those those managers, ground managers that we've seen, of course, white. They come here poor, and then when they leave here, I'm sure they'll be affluent.
There is a lot of racial issues. South African people don't like the white farmer, so they want to get you out. They don't like you, yeah? They don't. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle to get the people to work for you, but we are managed. We have to.
Who is to blame for the fact that you can't run this farm by yourself?
I think the blame should be put squarely on the shoulders of the government, of course. Feel that our people are capable of running our own enterprises, but unfortunately that scene will persist for maybe another 200 years.
Недостаточно опыта. Тут даже вопрос не в том, что черный фермер и белый фермер. Тут вообще не было никакого опыта управления, вот именно самим.
There is no child that was born walking. So they can only learn the skill of managing the farm when they have the farm.
Now we must explain ourselves to the colonizers in terms of black people wanting land and therefore what land is going to be used for. It's very racist and it's very colonial in mindset.
I really think that, white people are not prepared to pay back. Yeah? I mean, in terms of dominance of business, in terms of capital, they're still holding on to a lot of capital. Typical black family under apartheid was a struggling family. You had some separate amenities where you worked. You had to conform to certain rules when you went to town. You had to eat at particular restaurant. Every business had 2 doors. This one for whites, that one for.
We actually lifted them up. We actually, they are wearing our clothes. They are driving our motor cars. They are using our achievements, and now that is bad.
In apartheid, there were laws that separated the blacks and the whites in buses and in public facilities. The reason why it was like that was because of the different cultures. When you stand in line, they have a very small living space, while we have a big living space. And it is very, very difficult to stand with them in line because they press against you. They don't have what we call a civilized way of life. But I'm not saying we're better. You must just understand that we are different.
Everything the white man did is so bad now. And we are racist. I mean, this is racism, man. This is racism. This is racism. You understand what I mean? It is development.
What's your definition of racism?
From our biblical point of view, is that God created the different races on the earth. And He gave every race a place to stay. Apartheid defended the diversity that God made. According to my own definition, I am a racist. According to other definitions, I'm not a racist.
On our way to Orania now. In Orania, I'm going to visit some friends there. And it's a very unique town. Orania is the only town in South Africa that is demographically completely white.
Orania as an Afrikaner community was founded in 1991. At the end of the apartheid era. Today, 27 years later, we have a population of 1,500 plus minus, mostly limited by infrastructure, by housing. In Orania, the crime rate is very close to zero. Maybe one should not advertise it in public, but my own house has doors that cannot be locked, and that's the fact for many houses in Orania. Orania opens its arms and invites people who shares the intention of Afrikaner freedom. People who are not Afrikaners, who do not share the idea of Afrikaner self-determination or freedom, would not add value to this project.
People who live in Orania, they are proud racists who believe it's their God-given right to oppress black people in this country, who do not want to live with black people, who don't want to be contaminated by black people. That's why they've created that enclave.
If a black person would show up in Orania and would indicate that he or she or they are interested in joining the Afrikaner culture and participating in this project, there's nothing to prohibit them from it.
Then why, in your opinion, no one of black color are living in Orania?
Because Afrikaners are historically white people of European descent, which does not resonate with the average black person.
We don't want any interaction with black people. We subscribe to the Afrikaner culture, and we don't want to live with black people. That's how clear the racists who live in Orania.
Do you have white people in your party?
We don't allow white members in our party, Black First Land First.
Don't you think this is also racism?
No, it's not. We subscribe to the principle, or rather a fact, that black people are incapable of being racist.
Modern Afrikaners during the 20th century were not so much used to doing manual labor. It was just normally accepted that black people would be good to lay bricks and that white people would be good at looking at black people laying bricks. We're beyond that. We moved beyond that. We are training young people to enter into many of those kinds and levels of manual labor in Orania. Do that as if it's the most normal thing to do. In a certain sense, it's exactly a labor therapy.
Vader, dankie dat ons as vriende kan saam kan wees. Dankie vir die samegesyn. Vader, dankie vir die voedsel en ons vra dat U ons liggame sal seën. Amen.
Amen.
Dankie. Dankie julle smaakbietjie ete hoor maar. Dis daarom nou een lekker ding van Orania. Dis in ons kultuur en ons mense. Wat die ander ding wat lekker is, seker nou maar ons 'n klein gemeenskapie is. My vrou sê altyd, jy kan altyd ure praat. Jy doen nie. Sy's altyd haastig, maar dan loop jy 'n ouie by die houtdrawe raak en dan begin jy nou eers met hom te praat. Jy vat omtrent 'n halfuur om net gou brood en melk te gaan koop.
En dis net vir my lekker van ek weet in Orania is baie
baie. It's like en almal kinders se kinders speel saam.
Ek moet vir eerlik sê, ekskuus dit dalk nie 'n lekker ding vir mense om te hoor nie, maar ek is baie negatief oor Suid-Afrika.
Daar's baie ouens, ons het nou 'n bietjie met mense gepraat in die week. Toe sê hulle ook daar kom almal verwag, daar kom 'n burgeroorlog in hierdie land. Maar ek weet nie, die strafgerig, die boer moet eers, hy moet met sy rug totaal teen die muur staan voor.
Kyk, die ding is, as die burgeroorlog kom en ons volk bekeer nie, dan help dit ons om
And when we say land expropriation without compensation, we include Orania. In fact, when we take land, it's the first place we are going to target itself.
You jail yourself into your own house because there is no order outside. That's a very good question why the houses kind of jails.
We live neurotic lives. We have become a neurotic people. We are paranoid. You can see it in our eyes.
On our farm, we have a fence, a 6-foot fence around our house.
I carry a weapon for 20 years already because we are murdered brutally on the farms.
Every evening, when I get home from work, we lock all our doors. We call the neighbors and on the radio to check if everything is all right. Pajan, kom in. Is alles reg daar by julle? Dankie, lekker aan vir julle verder.
12 caliber shotgun. It has got a lot of firepower. My personal pistol I wear with me all the time during day, and I put it in the drawer at night.
But our farmers are murdered anywhere between 100 and 150 out of 100,000 people. That is 90 times the rest of the world. It is absolutely ridiculous what we have now.
There are a lot of concrete factors that has caused this wave of attacks and murders on white farmers. One of the most important reasons is radical leftist politicians are instigating this violence.
Shoot to kill! You must kiss the poor, the farmer! Kiss the poor, the farmer! Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa.
met the ambulance and they told me he's dead. My father was my idol. I was very sad for many years afterwards. I would just drive through the farm and just start crying. It took me a long time to get over it, yes.
The murder of my grandfather, I believe, made a very deep emotional impact on my father. It motivated him to try and actively work against this problem that causes white people on farm to be attacked and killed on a daily basis.
We are preparing for a war, we are preparing for an attack. I don't know whether you've heard of the Suidlanders. We are preparing with foodstuffs and infrastructure.
Always say it's perhaps safer to be involved with a group like the Suidlanders than not, because as they say, it's rather safe than sorry. Now we're heading to go see the leadership of the Suidlanders movement.
Suidlanders was formed about 18 years ago. In the year 2000, we do have many members, particularly clandestinely, secretly, from our national elite. So we have an idea that our membership is around about 130,000. We Suidlanders believe that a civil war in South Africa is inevitable. Our preparations include what we call a national emergency plan. And the goal of the national emergency plan is to remove our people as far as possible from the greatest threats, which are always in the most densely populated areas. One of our senior members has a caravan over there for his family to go in one direction and something for himself to go in another direction. Gas, salt, cereal, cookers, fuel cans. You know, a time of great danger, you're not eating like a king. This is a maize meal in a 2-liter Coke bottle. If you are using approximately 75 to 80 grams of maize meal for a meal, so he has 30 meals in here.
I think they live in the figment of their imagination. You are here, there's no social collapse. There's no lack of rule of law. There is still law and order. There is still social cohesion in this country.
The rate of murder of white farmers, depending on which source you want to use, according to AfriForum, is 97 per 100,000 per annum. According to Dr. Johan Berger of the Institute of Security Studies, it's 145 per 100,000 per annum.
It is mischievous by any group to claim that there is a targeted farm murderers of white people in the farms. Like any other race, white also find themselves affected by crime. And we are also affected.
What really angers me is when I see the photos of people being tortured to death, especially elderly people and children.
Ek is Martie du Plessis. Ek is die aanvaller van die plaas Duiselsrus. Die aanval op die plaas het begin om 8:15 die oggend. Ek ingekom in my huis in. Ek het die deure oopgemaak en toegemaak agter my. En toe ek ingaan in die gang in, toe staan hulle vir my en wag aan die gang, toe slaat hulle vir my. En ek was seker so 'n paar minute of iets uit, wat ek nie weet wat het met my gebeur nie. Toe ek my kom kry, toe lê ek op die grond op die matras, en toe ek my kop optel, toe slaan hulle my weer met 'n saag of wat, toe slaan hulle my hele kop agter oop. Aan my been, die regterkantste been, het hulle my spier afgeslaan en hulle het my oordrom gebars, my neus gebreek, my wangbene gebreek. Toe ek vir hulle vra hoekom hulle dit doen, toe sê hy vir my, hy haat die boere en hy vertrou geen boer nie. So ek moet my bek hou en stil bly, anders gaan hy my doodmaak. Hulle het al die deure gesluit, hulle het my sleutels gevat, my voertuigsleutels gevat, my toegesluit binne in die huis, al was nie vir my plek om uit te kom nie. Ek moes deur die venster in die kombuis klim om uit te kom, en dan moes ek omtrent so 2 kilometer loop na mense toe wat vir my kon kom help.
And this is sad. I want to cry, you know. I want to cry.
We were just 2 kids. My brother was 2 years, 7 months older than me, and he was killed in a farm attack. Shot 3 times, and all his organs was damaged except his heart. When I saw him, he was in a coma already, so I never got the chance to speak to my brother. That I miss him. He was my brother. I thought I dealt with it. Sorry about this. Call me crazy, but at his funeral, I was standing on one of the graves like this, and a dove came sitting right next to me and stayed there for a long time. To me, that was a sign. And I got down on my knees and I said, "Yes, Lord, I understand. It's fine."
Deuteronomy 28, verses 30 to 32. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord your God, or be careful to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, then all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. You shall build a house, and you shall not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, and you shall not use the fruit of it. Your ox shall be slain before your eyes, and you shall not eat of it. Your ash shall be violently taken away before your face, and shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given to your enemies, and there shall be none to help you. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people, while your eyes look on and fail with longing for them all the day, and it shall not be in the power of your hand to prevent it.
According to the Bible, if you vow, you have to pay. If you don't pay your vow, then God will punish you.
It says that I will make a foreigner your king. That's exactly what happened.
The main reason behind the revolution, it would be that men have forgotten God. Sorry.
We need to repent and return to God and lay off our sins, which are plenty.
how do you clean silver? You take silver and you heat it up to that specific point, the perfect moment. In that perfect moment, the dirt comes to the top and you can scrape it away. But everything has to go through that heat.
We are sitting with a ticking time bomb.
ANC will, through the parliamentary process, finalize a proposed amendment to the Constitution that outlines more clearly the conditions under which expropriation of land without compensation can be effected.